Welcome to A Transformed Life, the podcast where we alchemize our ashes into art, transform our pain into power and peace. I'm Hope Rose, your hope dealer, inspirational guide, and storyteller in this podcast. Each week, we dive into inspirational stories of transcending our grief, how to navigate custody battles with peace, transform our trauma into triumph, and what seems like a mess into a magnificent masterpiece. Together, we'll foster transformation, resilience, and guide you in claiming personal responsibility for your story. Our stories offer hope, encouragement, and community support, guiding you toward better health and wellness. Join me as we discover actionable ways to leverage our struggles, find healing, and rise like a phoenix. Tune in to discover your power, your divinity, and learn how to embrace your story so that it can serve others on their transformational journey. Hello, and welcome back to A Transformed Life podcast. I am so glad you are here. I will be honest with you. It has taken me a little bit to kind of get in the groove of being a podcast host and getting on a regular recording schedule with all the other life commitments I have. And I have this intention to publish this podcast every Tuesday morning. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not left a 5-star review, I would really appreciate it. There's no financial sponsorships for this show, so you can support the show by leaving a 5-star review, and that helps us get the show out to more people. I want to give a little fun update at the outset of this podcast. If you have listened to this podcast since the beginning, you know I have certainly been through a very intense transformational journey the last couple of years. You can go back to the first couple of episodes and catch up with all that happened in those details. The brief 411 on it is my young son. He had just turned 4 years old. He lived his entire life with me, and suddenly he was trafficked. Family court is the largest human child trafficking sector around. And so, my child was trafficked as of this recording 2.5 years ago, and I have not seen or heard from him since. I haven't known where he is, who he is with. I, have an inkling, but nothing is for certain. And so I've continued the court process. And in 2024, I've been in court 9 times. And I filed a motion about 1.5 years ago. And last week, that motion was finally granted in my favor. And I'm so excited and thrilled for this latest development. And I know it is a reflection of all of the intense, deep healing work that I've been doing with my team. And I have some very dedicated people to my evolution and my experience that I am having. And so I'm extremely grateful for their help and guidance and assistance in helping me use my story for the highest good of all. And so out of that hearing, I have now been awarded weekly video visits with my son. And the first one is this evening. So, there's lots of variables, and, whatever we hold in our consciousness is how it will be manifested. So I don't want to say too much because it's hours away and I don't know what will happen because I don't have a crystal ball. I can't see into the future. I will say, when you're dealing with an abusive ex and an individual who has lost power and control over the situation, many things can happen. And so I'm just so grateful that me and my son can hopefully see each other this evening. And so wanted to share that exciting news with you today. I also receive a monthly in-person visit. And this, as of right now, this case is scheduled for trial in April of 2025, which could be subject to change as court proceedings are tend to be like that. So that is, really exciting news as a mother, and my son requires a relationship with me and vice versa. So that is the exciting news on the outset of this podcast. Something else I wanted to share with you in terms of news, this is more of a personal share, is I have been working very hard to kind of unravel some of the patterns in my life. And one of them, being super real and vulnerable with you, is shame. Shame has really plagued my life. I didn't realize how deep shame had really taken a hold of so much of my life. And so about a week ago, I had a very significant shame breakthrough. Next experience was it was like a trip, like a psychedelic trip. It was so profound. It was very memorable. It had such a impact on my life in this week. And as I slowly kind of integrate the learnings from that experience, it's time to notice the shame, let it flow through and pass through and keep moving on. And so this experience was really life-changing, and it will be a pivotal moment in my life, kind of like that mile marker that you look back on and say, oh, that is the date that, my life changed. And so I'm really grateful for that opportunity. And because when I heal something in my life, people around me heal as well. It also frees up my energy. Shame is very debilitating. It's very defeating. It's very depressing. It's, very down. Yes, a lot of D words. And so if my energy is, spent in those frequencies, that does not lead me to a life that I know I was created for. And so it frees up that energy so I can literally rise higher in my frequency, my vibration, and really align my life to where I desire it to go. So that is also exciting news I wanted to share with you. The other thing I kind of wanted to talk about, and I just looked at the clock right now and it says 111, so 111, some angel numbers. So that is, just wanted to share that with you. The other thing I wanted to kind of talk about is November 11th through 15th on Instagram Live. I am hosting a Transformed Life Summit, so I hope you sign up and register for that. There'll be a link in the show notes that you can go to the website and sign up, atransformedlifesummit.com. And there's just some amazing speakers, all related to all areas of transformation, whether it be your business, personal, relationships, any area that you want healing for your life. Come on out to this virtual summit. You can be in your PJs, you can be in your jeans, whatever is comfortable for you. It's totally free. And when you sign up, there's also an amazing giveaway that I put together for you too. It's a beautiful PDF with kind of a transformational guide. So I hope you check that out. One other thing I wanted to kind of talk about today is this concept of whatever you're committed to. And I'm looking for the exact quote that I wrote down yesterday, actually. Your life is a reflection of your commitments. Do those commitments align with you? And so we know life is a mirror. Life is always reflecting back to us of like what is going on subconsciously in our internal world that we may not even be aware of. In fact, there was a couple things that came into my field recently of like, oh, I've been holding this particular thought in my subconsciousness, and that is how life has reflected back to me. And so, your life, my life is a reflection of our commitments. What are we committed to? Are we committed to the victim story? Or are we committed to changing that, to being aware of that pattern? Are we committed to healthy eating choices? Or are we committed to limiting ourselves to our limitations? I think, it's Eleanor Roosevelt who said, you can argue for your limitations all day long. Is that really what you want? And so you can argue for your limitations, or you can align yourself for what you want. And I just thought of how many people's life is a reflection of their commitments. We can be committed to, quote unquote, something negative, or quote unquote something positive. For me, I am really committed to my transformational evolution. I am committed to a holistic mind, body, spirit lifestyle, how I think, what I think. That includes, physical activity, being an athlete, tangibly, like what does this look like? I posted this actually on Threads and Instagram. I put a pull-up bar in my bathroom door, and this pull-up bar is awesome, by the way. Go over to my Threads page and you'll see a link for it. Maybe I'll put a link in the show notes as well. Anyway, this pull-up bar goes between the door, not over the door, so it's very handy. It goes in almost any door wherever you are, so it's very easy to transport. And I do variations of dead hangs, pull-ups, different grips, as well as more strength hangs, so not completely dead hanging, but just kind of like hanging midway to build strength. That is something I'm really committed to. And that reflection, what am I committed to? Well, I have a really strong back. I have really strong arms. I have a strong body. That is a reflection of my commitment. And so the more I build that physical muscle, it's the same way in building a spiritual muscle. What are you committed to? If you're really committed to always looking at life through, glass half full, then that's what you will receive back. And I think some of these principles, some of this wisdom can be tested when we are going through really difficult times. As a grieving mother, having my son trafficked and not knowing where he is, it has taken me a lot to rise out of that victim consciousness and say, what, how did I contribute to this situation? How did I co-create this situation? And so that did not come overnight. Let me assure you of that. That has been definitely a process. And it's just like, what am I committed to? And I think, if we wake up every day of like, what am I committed to? Am I committed to having a good day, having a joyful, peaceful outlook on life, the words I speak, the energy I give off, how I feel inside? And that is extremely powerful to live your life by. And it can really transform your life. So wanted to kind of leave that thought with you today, because it's really powerful if you can really tap into the energy of what am I committed to? Some of my daily practices are every morning I write a minimum of 2 pages. It has really transformed my life. I look forward to this time every morning. I also write a minimum of 1 page at night to kind of bookend the day. Going 24 hours between writings is too long for me. So it's really helpful to kind of clear your mind out on paper. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will always see me say, when the pen flows, the soul becomes free. And when you can release some of that energy out onto the paper, just let your pen flow however it wants to. And when you start off, it might be a little difficult to just, keep writing, but over time, it becomes easier and easier to just let the pen flow and really you can tap into the divine. You can really tap into source, that consciousness. And it's such a beautiful practice. That is something I'm committed to. I am committed to healing whatever it is that I need to healing, as hard as some of these moments are, as hard as some of these patterns and inner parts work, inner child, little girl stuff. I'm committed to fully healing those areas, healing those aspects, because I want and desire and committed to living an aligned life. I didn't come here to live small. I came here to change and disrupt the world for the highest good of all. And the things that I have experienced and gone through are not by coincidence. And I fully believe that they can be alchemized into just like an amazing masterpiece. And that is one thing I always kind of say when I'm interviewed on other podcasts is everyone has a masterpiece inside them. And that masterpiece is hidden. It's covered up by a lot of darkness, a lot of abuse and trauma and hurt and rage and anger and shame and guilt, abuse, sadness, grief. And my role is to uncover all of those aspects, all of those parts, all of those areas, so that masterpiece can shine, because only you can paint that masterpiece. And the world is living for that masterpiece, because when you heal your masterpiece, that in turn makes other masterpieces come alive as well. And so I recognize that I have a masterpiece inside of me. You have a masterpiece inside of you. And when we heal and uncover all that is covering that up, that art is able to come alive. And we all get to enjoy the fruits of that, which is love, joy, peace, kindness, service. We are no longer self-serving of like feeding the ego. We are in the highest service of all to humanity. And that is how we heal family court. That is how we heal our relationships. That is how we heal ourselves. And of course it starts with you and me first. It starts with me, starts with you. And then that ripples out into the world. And, a global movement, which is, super exciting. I can see and I can feel this healing, this transformation ripple out into these outer, realms. So that is just an epic vision that I have been given, have been downloaded by Source. So I want you to share that vision with me. And, we all go through difficult situations and circumstances. And if you are in one of those situations, my heart is with you, because I know what it's like to be in grief, to be, I still have to function on a daily basis. And I miss my son terribly as a biological mother who, went through pregnancy and childbirth and being a single mom the entire, basically his entire life, going through that journey and, walking through the legal nightmares and dealing with an ex who has not healed his wounds, has not healed his trauma, and has continued to attempted to inflict that on me, on my child, on other people as well. And using this painful experience in my life to say, how did I co-create this? How do I disentangle that? How do I disentangle what got me into that situation to begin with and realign it to where I desire to go? And so I find that exciting. That's one of the things that gets me out of bed in the morning. And really in service to you, in service to anyone who desires healing through mind, body, and spirit. And, a transformative experience is on all levels. It's rewiring the brain on the deepest levels. And, our country is living. It's not dying. It might be dying, but I like to say it's living for a breath of fresh air. It's living for healing. It's living for a new way. And, at the time of this recording, the election in the US is, a week and a half out. And there's a lot of things happening on an energetic, on an astrological level. And I just keep coming back to, how do I stay aligned with my vision, with what I have been called for? And, not letting the circumstances of my life dictate what I'm committed to. It'd be very easy to wallow in self-pity, in woe is me. It's such a hard day. It's such a hard life. It's such a hard month, week. And instead saying, you know what, let me view this challenge, this difficult situation, as an opportunity to transcend, to alchemize, and to bring healing on a global level, because our world is living for that. It's needing that. It's asking that. It's requesting that. And so I am challenging you to join with me in this healing process, this healing journey, and asking yourself, what are you committed to? What is your life a reflection of? And if you don't like that reflection back at you, what can you adjust to have a reflection that you're proud of, that brings you joy, that brings you gratitude? And this is all a daily practice. It is not a one-time seminar. It's not a one-time course. It is a continuous evolution of our mind, body, and spirit. So I think my new podcast format is going to be 22 minutes. 22 is a very significant number for me. And I thought, why not put 22 minutes into my podcast? So we're almost at 22 minutes. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will give you an update next week on how the visit went. And thank you so much for joining me on my healing journey. And I cannot wait to hear all about your transformation. And I can't wait to see you at a Transformed Life Summit, November 11th through 15th, 2024. Make sure you're following me on Instagram at Hope Rose Speaks. And I will talk to you next week. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for listening to a Transformed Life podcast. If you got something out of today's episode, please take a screenshot and share it on social media with your takeaway. And don't forget to tag us at Hope Rose Speaks. Have a beautiful day.